Nicole Danielle.
And I'm Megan Lee. And this is Romance on the Rocks, where two bookish biddies imbibe and talk about the romance novels that they have just finished.
Like today just finished.
I managed to finish mine on Saturday, but I wasn't sure that I would get it done, so I'm pretty proud. Today's Monday,
Awesome.
P.S., for anybody listening, so that was a couple days ago.
So if you're new to the podcast, we, like Megan said, read books and drink cocktails and imbibe and then share our reviews of the books. We do some fun things like award a booby prize for the first mention of breasts. And we have romantic reminders, and we rank our books on a spicy Scoville scale of how hot and spicy things get. And this month is Mermaid Month and Love Under the Ocean. Last episode, we had Krakens and Selkies. Mm-hmm. This episode, we have mermen, I believe. Megan?
Mine is referred to as an undine, but basically,
the undine. Okay.
Yeah, a really long-tailed merman with sharp, gnashy teeth and claws.
Do you have any trigger warnings for today, Megan?
Not particularly. I would say that this book is a little more on the forceful end, so I can see how it could possibly be triggering for people, but in all, things are very consensual. I guess it all depends on people's level of comfort.
Okay.
But, yeah, how about you?
For my book today, there's some fat shaming, body phobia type things. There's some asshole characters that have fat phobias and whatnot. What are we drinking?
I have tried to go on theme with a very blue colored drink.
Oh, I just saw a flash of it. It's quite blue.
It is quite blue. I believe it was called something like the blue water or the blue wave. And it has like a blue-orange liqueur, rum, lemonade. It's kind of tropical-ish, I guess.
Oh, she's so pretty.
Yeah, I cut up a lemon, and it is very, very blue. I was hoping that there was a cocktail out there called the Undine. Wasn't able to locate one and wasn't creative enough to come up with one on my own, so I just went for blue. I felt like blue fit. And how about you? What have you got?
I found today a wine called Sea Swept.
Ooh.
It's a mix of Sauvignon Blanc and a Pinot Grigio.
Very nice.
Let me see if I can get some good ASMR. Oh, it twist off. Sexy. Let's do a little pour.
She's so fancy.
We'll see if that ASMR happens. Half the time we get some good ice clinking happening on our mics, and half the time we don't. Who knows?
I felt like I could hear it, so there's at least that. I can be like, yep, good job.
So, are we ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. I think you get to go first this time around, and I'm pretty excited about the fact that when you talked to me earlier today, you said that your author is one that will be at Romance Con.
Yes, Emily B. Rose is the author of the book that I just finished, and I just was looking her up to get a little more knowledge on her today. And then I saw on her socials that she's going to be at Romance Con in Milwaukee in September. And I'm like, hooray! And I was so excited I told my husband, Bob, that I'm totally bringing the book and getting her to sign it because I kind of feel like I have to. So I'm excited.
Oh, yes.
This is Call of the Sea. And there's a lovely, plump and round and curvaceous red-headed princess on the cover, with windswept hair standing by the sea. This was published in 2024. It's definitely in the romantasy, fantasy, mermaid genre. I can't quite call it mermaid smut, though, because it didn't get too smutty.
Oh, okay.
Take on this is that it's Splash meets Brave meets Bridgerton, specifically the Penelope Featherington end of the Bridgerton story. Our main characters are you ready for this name? It's kind of wild.
Bring it.
Makenna, Merdina, McNamara.
Ooh, she got all the
Yeah, a lot of M names. She is the princess of an island kingdom that shares a lot of similarities with Scotland, if you will. She is heir to the throne. She's a full-figured, curvy, lovely, neurodivergent with ADHD. And this was a new word for me, demisexual.
Oh, sure.
I didn't know this one. For those who don't know what it is, it's a person who experiences sexual feelings and attraction only after developing a close emotional relationship and not on the basis of first impressions, physical characteristics, etc. And I guess I would have to say I'm demisexual because I've only ever had sex with 2 people in my life, and I was married to both of them. So I'm definitely more of that long haul relationship type of person. So I think I can safely put myself in the demisexual category. Then we have her twin brother, Prince Tristan Owen McNamara, who is bisexual. Then we have Cameron Mackenzie, one of the young men from another clan in the kingdom vying for Makenna's hand in marriage. Here's the plotline. Princess Makenna has been obsessed with mermaids since she was a little girl, and at the age of 5, she fell off a boat, almost drowned, but was rescued by a mermaid. No one believes her about the mermaids, though, and she refuses to follow everyone else in their beliefs because she knows they're real. Whether or not they want to admit it or believe it, she knows they're real. This and the fact that she's a pleasantly plump lass leads to her being picked on a lot growing up and as a teenager. She's, nerdy. She believes in mermaids. She's fat. They're like, oh, you're a dork, you're a dweeb. And they just pick on her endlessly. And even the boy who was her first crush totally body shames her and makes fun of her when he thinks she isn't listening, which really breaks her heart and causes her to have some trust issues with her peers. As heir to the throne, Makenna has now reached an adult age of her early 20s where she must marry. She was able to postpone it with her parents for a couple of years, but they're like, nah, you gotta get married now. So as the kingdom is currently at war with fairies who have been raiding and destroying farms, etc., marrying a young man from one of the kingdom's clans will also help strengthen bonds and ideally help with the war effort. And my question is, you have fairies that exist, but you don't believe in mermaids?
I was actually going to comment on the fact that you and I are heading into our month of fairies, and you seem to be getting a jump on it a little early.
Yeah, a little bit. So they have this special festival, much like the one in the Disney cartoon movie Brave, where 5 young men will compete for her affections. Makenna has no high hopes for true love and simply wants to pick one of the 5 guys who she can at least be comfortable with as a partner and potentially a friend down the road. She's already ruled out one of the guys because he's the same childhood shithead who she had the crush on, and he obviously doesn't like Makenna, and he totally fat shames her again at this whole festival going on for eating a pastry. He's like, oh, do you really need that pastry? I'm like, dude, shut up.
Yuck.
Yeah. So clearly she's not picking him out of the 5, and he just wants the title. He's definitely not interested in her for her. Makenna does find herself physically attracted to one of the young men, Cameron Mackenzie, and they have some witty banter, and he actually cares about her thoughts and feelings, and he's very engaging in conversation with her. He even tells her at one point he's not interested in the crown, that's not why he's there. Then I'm like, dude, why are you there then?
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystery. He gives her a really beautiful necklace made from gold and pearls during the festivities, and I have to say none of the other potential suitors brought her any presents, so scoring points all around, Mackenzie. But Makenna has problems trusting her own feelings sometimes, and also people because of her past trauma, and it doesn't help when she overhears Reed, the douche from her childhood who broke her heart, talking to another one of the guys, and they're both just trying to get the title and crown and talk shit about Kenna. And for some odd reason, she thinks it would be bad if she's physically attracted to her future husband. I'm not really understanding that, but okay. Despite all of that, things are still going along swimmingly, pun intended, with the festival, and soon Kenna will have to choose her fiancé. But on the last night of the festival during a ball, there's some questions about whether Cameron Mackenzie really is who he says he is. And Megan, that's all I'm going to say about the plot because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who is reading or wants to read it.
Wow.
I will just finish by saying there are a couple of really good plot twists that tie the story together really nice and a happy little bow. So, spice level, giving this one a poblano. There's a couple of intimate scenes, but they are pretty brief and not very graphic. Things I loved. Mermaids. I am totally and always here for the mermaids. And mermen. Hello. Her brother, Tristan, he's effing hilarious. On page 38, Tristan and her are kind of eyeing up the potential people and candidates at the festivities. And he's like, I may like a good ass, but I also prefer a person with a personality to match. I really enjoyed that comment.
Yeah. Yep. True.
There's also a moment, because Tristan is bisexual, where he's hitting on one of the men vying for Makenna's hand, and the guy is flirting right back with him. And she tells her brother that she doesn't mind sharing, but sharing a husband or partner ain't going to be on the table. And he's like, oh, that's fair.
Especially with a sibling. Ugh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I thought it was hilarious because they were both like, yeah, that's not going to work. That's gross. Yeah. There was lots of great consent and body affirmation during this book. I loved that the female character is overweight, and many of the characters seem to be very physically realistic and normal to average looking. It was so refreshing and a nice change. And there's some really nice conversations about trauma and depression that some of the characters work together through. I really appreciated how the author, Emily B. Rose, put together the book. At the beginning of the book, she makes a very clear statement that Makenna is fat. And she doesn't mince words. She's like, this girl is fat. And you need to know that, and I'm not going to skirt around it. Okay. And she talks about how she's also neurodivergent with the ADHD, etc. She's very strong in her convictions about presenting those elements to the storyline, and I just appreciated that she kind of opened the book with that statement. There's also a nice little explanation of some of the Gaelic terms that she uses in the book, including a pronunciation guide, because I was like, how the hell do you say this word?
Yeah, that's very helpful.
It was. And then there's a quote that may be one of my absolute new favorite book quotes of all time now. Page 351. My heart has always belonged to the ocean, and it's found its home in you. I love you. That just really spoke to me. I was so obsessed with mermaids and wanting to be a mermaid when I was little. I used to make my aunt and my mom put salt in the bathtub so that I could sprout my tail. Mm-hmm. And for huge parts of my life, I've lived near the ocean, and I grew up going to the beach. I've always been drawn to the ocean myself. So this all just totally speaks to me, and it's just such a beautiful line. Challenges with this book. I'm going to be honest, Megan. The first 60% of this book is really slow. And we spend a lot of time throughout the story being immersed in Makenna's expansive thoughts. It honestly got to be too much for me at various points, and especially because some of the thoughts were repetitive. It just really slowed the pacing of the book for me, and I feel I could have gotten through it a lot faster if those thoughts had been condensed a bit. But that being said, by the last several chapters, there's lots of action and development of the story, and it's a much quicker read during the last part of the book. Overall, I enjoyed and appreciated the well-crafted plotline and character development. And I've got some fun references. Our favorite word, thrumming.
Yeah.
Straining member. We had a straining member.
Was it straining to escape?
Out of his pants, maybe.
Yeah.
And then, Megan, classic romance novel move. He pinched the bridge of his fucking nose.
You know, I was with my family over the weekend, and my mom told me a story about how she had a really bad headache, and she had gone outside just to sit down and get some sunlight, and she suddenly went, oh my God, and realized that she was sitting at the back patio table pinching the bridge of her nose because her head hurt. And she was like, all I could think about was you guys. Like, yeah, apparently this is a thing and none of us have just ever noticed it.
Yeah. So that's what I got from my book. Tell me about yours.
Well, it feels like it's going to be a short and sweet episode this time around because I kind of have the same thing going as you. Like, I can't ruin too much of this.
Yeah.
So I've got Whispers of the Deep by Emma Hamm, or maybe it's Emma Hamm, Hamm, also written in 2024. Our heroine is Mira, and on the cover of my book, it's got an Undine, and they are floating around in the ocean. You know,
is she a redhead too?
She is also a redhead.
Love it.
I did find it to be a little deceiving. You and I thought that maybe this was going to be a period piece based on kind of looks like a bar wench type of dress.
Yeah.
It isn't. I'm not real sure where this dress really comes in. I think this was just someone's fantasy interpretation. I love the way he looks on this book. Like that actually feels pretty accurate to what she was trying to describe.
Okay.
But anyway, I've got Mira. She has lived her entire life in the underwater city of Beta. The city is populated by humans. It's reinforced with steel and glass. It's been besieged by the sea creatures who wish to tear the city apart. Mira was orphaned at a young age and doesn't have any close friends. She works as an engineer, repairing any portions of the underwater dome that need attention. Our hero is Argus, and when you said pronunciation guide, this might be pronounced Argus, Arges, but I'm going with Argus, kind of like Argonaut. He belongs to the people of the water, which humans actually refer to as the Undines. In turn, he refers to the humans as Acromos. He is the leader of his people, and they are hell-bent on destroying the city of Beta. In building that underwater colony years ago, the humans left a path of environmental destruction in their wake, and so the people of water want to settle the score, rid the ocean of this human scourge. Early on in the book, Mira has been assigned to deal with a welding project in a remote wing of the city, and while she's working on securing this big glass wall, Argus swims close to her position. The two of them cautiously study one another, Mira from curiosity and Argus from tactical standpoint. He realizes that the glass panel she's working on is weak and just starts to smash into it, attempting to destroy the wing. In this melee, Argus is snatched by one of Beta's underwater defense systems and somehow ends up inside the wing as it starts to flood and crumble. Mira is also there. They're trapped together. They are the only two in this part of the building. So now they have to work together to get out of this imploding hall because he's going to die by shrapnel. She's going to die by drowning. Neither one are going to make it out if they can't do this together. So they have no other choice but to cooperate. He escapes back into the ocean. She ends up safe and dry in another section of the city. Because of this interaction, they feel a begrudging connection to one another. And after hearing about this scenario, the elders of the Undines decree that Argus needs to go back and capture Mira to try and gain any knowledge he can from her that will help them overthrow her city. Since she specifically seems predisposed to have at least a little trust in him and seems to lack a great amount of fear, they feel like she's probably a good candidate for this. Argus manages to kidnap her when she's outside the city walls, attempting to repair some of the damage from that previous attack. He has a brother that is super not on board with him keeping Mira, even though the elders are the ones requiring it. And so this sets up a big rift between him and his people and kind of where his loyalties lie, because he's trying to do what the elders tell him to keep her alive and get information, but the common people just feel like he's betraying them by hanging out with her. And what sets up here is just a very long, slow burn kind of romance.
Okay.
Because they are so very, very different. And you had said that you felt that you saw a lot of splash in your romance novel. And I had mentioned to you, that was one of the things I thought about a lot early on in this book, because in Splash, Madison has that like screaming language. She can't really talk. She just like howls and has this scream. Anybody who's seen the movie Splash, you know that Daryl Hannah character, like that noise she makes. That's kind of how the language is here for the Undines, except that when they're underwater, it almost comes across as like a whale sound. So out of the water, it's a totally different sound, right? Underwater, much more pleasant. But Argus and Mira do not speak the same language. She can't speak that at all.
Oh, okay.
So as a slow burn here, he doesn't understand English human language until page 137. She does not understand him and his language until page 230. So this is a lot of them trying to do gestures and misunderstanding what the other one is trying to impart knowledge-wise. He doesn't understand half her gestures. He thinks her language sounds like chirping and gibberish. He's way too loud for her outside of the water because he's got the screeching. So I thought it was really interesting trying to see how these two were going to make it to the other side of that. I'm really not going to tell you anything more about this story, but I will read a couple passages. Let's go with page 152. Okay, I found this funny. In a lot of these books where we talk about, like, how are these two going to get together, and we mean, like, physically, how are these bodies going to work, right? Like, when I had the Kraken and I was, man, this thing is all tentacles and trauma. How are these bodies going to fit together?
Yeah.
So this is Mira thinking the same thing, because they both kind of have, like, an attraction to each other, but this is before they can even really speak to each other. And she's had these little, like, fantasies where she's like, this is ridiculous that I'm even thinking about this. But did he even have a dick? She knew that some fish just sprayed sperm. Maybe that's what he did. Maybe his species laid eggs and he would just soak her when he was done, leaving her unsatisfied and grossed out. I was like, I mean, that's a legitimate thought there, lady. Like, you're romancing a giant fish. So, there's that. There's the part in the book where he has been calling her Kairos, Kairos, for quite a while.
Okay.
And she finally says, you have been calling me that for a long time. What does that even mean? My translator doesn't know what to do with that one. And his response is, it is a word with many meanings, an ephemeral rightness of time and place, a moment that brings you to where you are supposed to be. And so it's just kind of like a big word that encompasses a lot. And to me, it's kind of in place of my love, but it's almost more meaningful. I don't know. I really liked that. And then finally, going back to bodies fitting together.
Yeah. I'm intrigued now.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you what he's got hiding under a loincloth, right? Because I find that is finally an interesting reveal where you go, oh, but I will tell you, like a lot of these other books, far too big. Why? Can we just say, why? Why is this a thing? I don't find any comfort in somebody going, see my fist? Now double it.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. No, thanks.
Gross. No.
No.
So I will say, in my opinion, far too big. But a precursor to that was when one of the first times she had seen him through the glass windows. In her head, this is what she says. Somehow through the glass, he was 10 times larger than she remembered. Or maybe it was just that his tail, it was all spread out now. She could see it, all 10 feet of it, vertically, which made him, 15, 16 feet long, maybe? He was massive, huge, enormous. All the words that meant big. Fucking God, he was big. And that's just looking at him as a creature.
Yeah.
And then we got to the part where, like, he finally whips it out, and I was like, that's quite a lot.
But was it a prehensile appendage?
It wasn't. It wasn't grabby. So there was at least that. But I will say there were still surprises.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah.
What would you rank this, Megan?
I would give this probably a habanero. There's a lot more yearning and pre-sex scenes, if that makes sense, than the actual sex scenes. I'd say there's maybe like 2 actual sex scenes in this book. The rest of it is just a lot of foreplay. I found the book really well written. It's definitely a world building kind of experience. And when I got to the end, I slammed it shut and I said, and there will be a sequel. So if I want to continue reading, I can. And I may. I did like the characters. I liked the way they were written. I thought the world was very well put together and interesting. And it was probably just the right amount of romance versus world building, in my opinion. And case in point, I was running 10 to 15 minutes late for tonight's recording session because I was specifically looking for a passage. I was trying to find when did he finally understand her and vice versa. And as I was scrolling through, I caught myself not looking for the passage anymore, but rereading one of the chapters. And when I looked up at the computer, I realized it was 6:06 and you had already sent me a message asking if I was ready. And I'm like, oh, crap. I've been rereading the book that I just finished. So I would say that is a good sign for a well-written book. So I definitely enjoyed it. I would read more by this author for sure.
Okay. Any foods or interesting thrummings or appendages references?
Well, he's got twin hearts, which I thought was interesting.
Oh.
And as for appendages, I will let you read the book because more fun to find out on your own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
The
foods?
food, yeah, the food, apparently in her little city of Beta, they eat a lot of like oatmeal and gruel and soup. That's at least what it sounds like. She never describes the food. That's him describing the food that he observes them eating. So in my head, I'm assuming it's like things in a bowl. And really for him and his people and the whole time she's with him, it is just a lot of fish, couple oysters. It's a very strict diet of she starts getting sick because she doesn't have vitamin D or vitamin C. And yeah, like there's a lot of fish. The girl needs a better diet. So yeah, not a lot to really talk about with the food, unfortunately. How about you?
There was a lot of references to food being served at the various festivities and whatnot, but nothing overly specific, just some vague mentions of wine. And then the only thing they really got specific about was the chocolate pastry that she was eating when she got fat shamed. I was just like, can't a girl enjoy her croissants without you being a dickbag?
No, if the internet has taught us anything, women can't do a single thing without being approached and shamed by a dickbag.
And she hadn't eaten all day because she was so busy with these stupid festivities, and it was her first chance to nibble something, and people keep interrupting her, and she's just trying to eat her croissant.
Girl.
Booby prize. So I'm curious how yours is hitting if it was a slow burner, but you said there was also some foreplay and whatnot.
Yeah, a lot of foreplay. And it was there. It was a thing. My booby prize is page 104. And if I haven't mentioned already, this book is about 430 some pages long.
Okay.
So I'm at page 104. And I decided this counts because they don't speak each other's language, so he's not going to know how to really refer to her boobs.
Okay.
So she flicked her fingers at him, indicating that he should turn around. But he didn't want to. He wanted to see the rest of her body, if only to know how different they really were. Obviously, she had mounds on her chest, unlike his people. But what if Acromos hide terrifyingly ugly bodies beneath all the scraps of fabric they wore? So the mounds on her chest, I have decided.
Definitely counts. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the breasts. So that's page 104.
Okay. I'm not too far apart from you. Page 64.
Okay.
The cut was flattering on her full figure, following the soft roll of her middle and displaying her ample breasts, enough to catch the eye, but not so much as to be scandalous.
Very nice. How long was your book?
Oh, it was long. It was girthy. Let's see. Just a little over 400.
Okay. Then you definitely beat me. I mean, the books are about the same length.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like mine was a slog, though. I know you said that yours was kind of slow moving in parts. I did not feel that about my book.
I was just very relieved once there was a really nice solid plot twist, and I even said it out loud to Bob. Until that point, I was like, oh, God, it's taken me forever to get through this.
Gotcha. How about any romantic reminders?
Ooh, yes. I like this romantic reminder. It's quite relevant to real life. Establish your partner's preferred level of touch. In one of the book's intimate scenes, the couple involved communicates their preference for level of touch. He says, "You have to tell me how to touch you." And she responds with, "I like firm touches. Soft touches sometimes make me uncomfortable, like ants are crawling on my skin." I so very much relate to this with my hypersensitive skin. And I actually had to have this conversation with my husband, Bob, early on in our relationship when we were dating. He would frequently do this thing where he would like super lightly and repetitively touch my arm or back with his fingertips, and it was horrific for me because it irritated my skin immensely and grated on my nerves to the point where I almost considered breaking up with him over it because I was like, I can't be with somebody who touches me like this forever. But I finally worked up the courage and told him about my need for firm touch, and he adjusted the way he touched me. And well, here we are on our way to celebrating our 13th anniversary in a few months. So yeah, I would say establishing a level of touch that is preferred for your partner is a huge romantic reminder. And I believe you can relate to that one as well.
Absolutely. Please don't touch me lightly. Makes me want to vomit.
Right?
Yeah. So icky. My romantic reminder just goes back to a classic of communication, but in my particular case in this book, it's not how we usually talk about it, like, oh, just tell the other person how you feel. It's just in this particular case, they did not know how to communicate because there was such a big language barrier. However, they both kept working at it. And I thought that was super important because they recognized there was a language barrier right off. Sometimes I think because we are, in our case, all speaking English, we're like, clearly that person understands me. And so we don't feel like we have to work all that hard. And that's not the case in a lot of, scenarios. So the fact that these two knew right off the bat that they couldn't communicate properly just made it more apparent that they were working at it and were trying. I thought that was very nice.
Yeah, definitely. So next month is Fairy Smut Month. As we continue our journey into romantasy and fantasy romance novels. Megan, what are you reading for the next episode?
I'm reading a romance novel called Laura by Bertrice Small.
Oh, Bertrice.
Yeah. Yep, it's a girthy one.
Do you have the synopsis handy?
Are you ready?
Yes, lay it on me.
Welcome, dear reader, to the world of Hitar, a realm of forest lords, of shadow princes, and the coastal kings, a land of passions, both civilized and savage, where the social classes know their place, but where anyone can, under the right conditions, advance to the highest pinnacle. This is a place where pleasure is never censured, but encouraged, and where deception and desire may be intertwined. The orderly, elegant veneer of refined Hitar can no longer ignore the rebellion brewing in the outlands, a dangerous place of both magic and mystery. From the city that is at the very center of Hitar, Laura, the beautiful half-fairy daughter of John Swiftsword, ventures forth on a journey that will awaken her, both body and soul, as she learns the true meaning of love that will last in eternity, and a searing passion that will change the destiny of Hitar forever.
Wow. I feel like you could do that professionally.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a book, and I read it.
Well, I'm sure you'll have lots to say on the next episode of the podcast.
I have a lot to say.
Uh-huh.
How about you, Nicole? What are you reading for the next podcast?
Dark Enchantments by Rosalind Breyer. Mirabelle Spinner grew up in a tower with only spiders, spindles, and stone walls for friends. While her mother spun gold for the king, she wondered why her mother refused to teach her fairy magic until one fateful mistake led Mirabelle to become the healer in the king's Sleepy Wood Company. Drained from years of waking soldiers from a cursed sleep, Mirabelle must now choose a new canvas, a man whose life she drains with a dagger to fuel her healing powers. A ritual binds her to Bizarian Dumont, who loathes fairies for the fires that left his family impoverished and his body riddled with scars. His burning hatred causes Mirabelle's enchantments to wilt, leading the king to threaten her mother's life. Bizarian can only see Mirabelle as a beautiful spider who strings men along her web, while Mirabelle considers love a weakness for the king to exploit. With their families in danger and soldiers rotting in a death-like sleep, the pair must learn to trust one another before the dark magic spinning in Mirabelle's soul unravels once and for all.
I want someone to see me as a dark spider.
Okay.
I would find that to be such a compliment. Megan, you're like a dark spider. You're like, yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is a pretty short episode, I feel like, but...
It is. Mostly because I actually really enjoyed my book and I just don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil my book for other people because I think it's worth reading.
Yeah, I think this book is definitely worth reading. And because I did finish this book when I was with my family, my little sister often will read along with us and find the books. And so I handed this book off to her because I had forgotten to mark down where my booby prize was. I knew what it was, and I remembered reading it, and I'm like, I'll know where that is. Oh, God, having to go back and search for it was painful.
The same thing happened to me. I was like, where the fuck is this boob reference?
Yeah, I knew what it was. I kept saying to Kate, I'm like, he talks about her lumps. And then, of course, then I get into the book and I realize it was mounds. But, either way, I remembered. I knew what it was. And she said, well, I'll start the book. Maybe I'll find it and I can give you the page number. And I'm like, awesome. So I give her the book. She goes off to read it. And the next day she hands it back to me. She goes, I found it on Kindle. You can have this back. And I'm like, I was hoping you'd highlight it. You can have all of our highlighting in here. This is probably the least amount of highlighting I've done on any of the books.
Really? That's so unusual for you.
Like I said, I was super into the world building. I found that really, really interesting. And so I found myself getting lost in that and forgetting to do a lot of highlighting because it didn't seem necessarily like passages I needed to read out loud here, just really beautiful kinds of words that I'm like, I enjoy how she's setting this up. I would put this higher up on the list of anything I've read for the podcast at this point. So yeah, definitely liked it. I probably will read the follow-up when that comes out. Curious to see how she makes that happen because you can already tell who the main characters are going to be. And you don't necessarily like one of those main characters in this book. So it'll be interesting to see that kind of switch and trying to make that character more relatable.
For sure. Do you want to sign us out, Megan?
I suppose I can do that. Thank you for joining us today for Romance on the Rocks. Please like, subscribe, and follow. And if you are a hopelessly romantic, bookish biddy like us, think about giving us a review on Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you catch your podcasts. Your support means the world to us. And until next time, stay safe and know that you are loved.